We're turning now to the United Nations. The organization UN Watch has drafted a resolution for the Human Rights Council to terminate the mandate of the UN Special Rapporteur on the Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese. Now, this comes after our correspondent Mike Wagenheim pressed the UN for clarity on the funding behind her trip to Australia amid speculation of her connections to pro-Hamas organizations. And joining us now is our U.S. correspondent Mike Wagenheim himself for more details. So give us some background here about Albanese.
Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur for Palestinian Rights, a controversial figure for sure here at the United Nations. She's been credibly accused of a number of anti-Semitic statements. Certainly, I think she would be the first one to tell you, carries with her certainly a pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel bent toward her rhetoric, toward her actions as Special Rapporteur. She's been condemned directly by the German and French governments for anti-Semitic comments. The U.S. government has had a number of criticisms of her as well. Albanese under the spotlight as of late because of a trip that she took to Australia and New Zealand back in November of 2023. The expenses for those that trip and how it was paid for is currently the subject, we learned today, of an investigation by the UN's internal investigative authority. Albanese accused by UN Watch of being sponsored and supported by that trip, or on that trip rather, by Hamas supporting lobbying groups, which is completely prohibited by the UN Code of Conduct. Now, we pressed Albanese's office along with several UN agencies to provide receipts showing that, in fact, the UN is the one that paid for that trip, as it should be by UN regulations. Albanese's office did not respond to multiple requests. Meanwhile, other UN agencies keep passing the buck along to other entities and other organizations within the UN system. So after weeks and weeks of a lack of clarity on the matter, the UN's investigative authority is taking action. They've referred the matter to the head of the Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights to try to gain some clarity as to where the payments for that trip actually came from. Albanese, during her venture to Australia and New Zealand, met with a number of pro-Palestinian organizations and participated in media and fundraising events along the way.
Can we actually expect anything to come of this resolution?
That resolution, separate, though obviously related to the investigation that's been opened up by the UN itself, but that the resolution, we were told this morning by the head of UN Watch, its Executive Director Hillel Neuer, is going to be forwarded today to U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. It'll be key to get U.S. support behind it. Of course, the U.S. Withdrew from the UN Human Rights Council a number of years ago under the administration of Donald Trump, only to return under the administration of Joe Biden with the promise that that return would actually make a difference on the Human Rights Council. Now, the Human Rights Council and the larger High Commissioner for Human Rights oversee the special rapporteurs. So if anybody's going to have any kind of influence on the process here, it would be the United States. Certainly will be interesting to see what type of reaction that draws from the State Department, which again has been critical of Albanese's actions here at the UN, both at the State Department administrative level and within the Office of the Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism.